Welcome to Heritage of Faith Bible Institute. Today I'm going to be sharing on the principle of facilitation. Facilitation is needful because many of our courses are on DVD, presented on DVD with workbooks and notes that go with it. So in order to train the facilitation process and those that are potential facilitators, I'm going to take you through some aspects of facilitation, the principles thereof. We'll do facilitation, we'll look at the process of facilitation. So welcome, and we'll get on with it. First of all, facilitation. What is facilitation? Facilitation is essentially making available a process of learning to the learners. It can be 2 or 3 people, it can be a group of many more people. And what it does is its objective is to create a climate where it provides opportunities for others to learn. Learners to learn, learners to have their say. It incorporates group discussion. It's very, very open to opinions, views of individuals. So we want to encourage that. And you have to learn to be able to manage that and the dynamic thereof. So it's a group environment in which it has its own psychology, it develops its own spirit within the class or within the group. The process allows for individuals to grow up and to take responsibility for what they're both learning and the way that they grow. In other words, their experiences, their emotional responses to what they're learning becomes very important, and that they partake in that they become participants to this process. The process helps by way of easing the delegates, the students forward in whatever they're learning. It eases them forward and into it, giving them more confidence and ability to start sharing what they think, what they believe, what they've learned, how they will apply these things in their lives. The role of the facilitator, by definition, if you like, is to coach the group forward, enable to take them to a common goal. Many of those which will include, of course, things like aptitude, dexterity or skill, fluency, and pliancy. Just to touch on those for a moment again. The first one, aptitude, which relates to their fitness, your ability. Facilitation can be a function of temperament of the individual as well. So I believe that it's important for the individual facilitator to have the right temperament for this, because the more you can engage the people, the delegates, the better it is for them. And so you kind of become the silent partner to the discussion. So the dexterity or the skill thereof is what I've already said, but there is a definite skill and a learned skill to facilitation, to be a successful facilitator. It's not one who's wanting to master the group. It's one who wants to facilitate, lead the group more in a passive, assertive way. So what he does, or what she does, is to engage the people in different ways. And we'll go through some of those things. And fluency is important because we want to create a nice flow through the learning process, whatever the course is, whatever the learning notes may be. That student needs to maximize his empowerment from what he's learning. And then pliancy really relates more to flexibility. The facilitator has a level of flexibility which allows him to take the students from one level of growth to the next level of growth. It should also facilitate an opportunity for the individual learner to explore his or her own life, her own abilities, taking them from one level of growth to the next, because they're going to have ideas, views about what they're learning. And we want to create a platform or an atmosphere where those students can actually feel free to engage in the discussion, to be able to view their opinions, to talk about the application of what they're learning in real life, how to do it at home, how to do it at work, and allow them to hold to their own principles, their own values that they've experienced and learned in life. At the same time, that there's a transformation that takes place because of this discussion. So it allows the individual to be empowered. It allows the student, the delegate, to be empowered through this engagement called facilitation. So as the facilitator, what do? You passively allow them to have their say. You don't, obviously you don't lose control in the discussion period, and you watch for various things. There are a number of dynamics which we'll cover as we go through this training process today. The second thing that I'd like to touch on is the actual process of facilitation. So facilitation is the platform, and if I repeat myself in some ways, it's good because faith comes by hearing, and the repetition is good for us. Facilitation is a platform for individual and group participation. So what it does is it allows for the interaction between the learners. So you have the dynamic of a learning group. They're all different people, different personalities, different temperaments. And you have to facilitate them based on who they are and not who you are and what you want to achieve. Because they're the ones who are there to learn, and you're facilitating their learning experience. And so the merits of their ideals, their values, the things that they would like to express, inquire, and learn is important for you to understand. That dynamic is critical for you to control it without manipulating the discussion or anything like that. It is a freedom and a liberty that you actually give to the learner to be able to engage in this process called facilitation. As a facilitator, you're somewhat of a leader, but you're not managing the group. You're really allowing them to learn to take responsibility for themselves, for their own learning, for their own views, their own opinions, because it's although it may be a little instructive here and there, the idea is that it's not prescriptive, and we're not imposing things on them. In other words, it's not another teaching platform for the facilitator to take over and to give his views, because he's not there to be the learner. The learner is the one who must learn from the experience. So, it's not like in a school exam or a teaching exam situation. We're not telling them what to do. What we want to do is we want to draw them out. They've been learning. They've been taking in information to learn and to gain understanding. So we want to draw them out into this process so that they become free amongst themselves as the group. They have the ability to share themselves, even to the point of making mistakes, even to making a foolish statement. It doesn't matter. You're not there to manage that. You're there to facilitate them as individuals. So I want to touch on a couple of areas of underlying factors to make this process called facilitation, to make it successful for anybody. So there are 4 aspects to this. The first one is respect. Well, respect means that you are caring for the people. You have an interest in them, in the dynamic of that group, individuals. So you have a genuine interest in their learning process. You're prepared to listen to them. They mustn't be shut down. There are intervention techniques which I'll talk about later, but there must be a high level of acceptance for this process to be successful. The second point is empathy. Empathy is about accurately reflecting on the atmosphere that's being created within the group. It is an allowance to be reflective. What are you thinking about? What do you think about this concept that you've just been learning today? How do you feel about these different things that are going on? Empathy is important. Jesus himself showed much empathy towards people who were struggling in life and struggling to come to terms with new things that were being taught. It requires understanding and a high level of acceptance of other people's views. I believe in my own view, I believe that in this setting, the individual learner must be free to have and voice his or own opinion. Right or wrong, they must be allowed to do that, because in and through that, there is a learning process. It's like being a parent with your own children. You allow them to express their views. They may be incorrect, but you coach them into what is right. And so that's what facilitation does. It's got to be real or honest. The honesty of this is that everybody becomes relaxed because of the atmosphere of acceptance. And so there becomes a greater sense of openness. And what does openness help to do? Openness amongst us as people, when we're open with each other, it actually helps us to develop trust, to build trust. And then the fourth point is to allow congruence. Congruence is that word which means to be exactly alike, like a facsimile, to say things as they are. And we can be congruent with each other without being rude, without being derogatory, without being demeaning. Because the last thing we want to do is to belittle anybody in our group. We want them to feel free, this acceptance. And what congruence does, it allows us to continue to maintain a sense of focus in the group. So we want to focus. We don't want to go off course. What are your views on what we're learning today, not about some other subject? So there's a level of congruence always that's needful, so that these can make the thing successful. And so what am I saying about these four pillars? These four pillars that I've shared with you, the four pillars of respect, empathy, realism or honesty, and congruence. What these are going to do is they're going to help you create a high level of trust. And trust is imperative to any relationship. And after all, facilitating a group like this, whoever they may be, whatever their ages may be, as a facilitator, you are there to develop a trusting relationship with them, so that they're able to then become open. Some people are more freely open. The extroverts don't need much encouragement, but the introverts need more encouragement to open up and start to feel that they're accepted, and there's an element of trust. So building trust involves some of the following ingredients, and I'm going to go through a number of these. There are probably many of these in life, but the first one, I think one of the most important ones, is the issue of openness. Openness is the freedom to take risks without fear of recriminations, ridicule, or criticism, or humiliation. Nobody wants to be humiliated. And so openness is critical to all relationships. So there must be a high level of openness, because this is one of the ingredients for trust. The next one is confidence. The ability to be vulnerable, having confidence enough to be vulnerable in your setting, and being able to say what you want to say, feeling that even though I'm making myself vulnerable, I have the confidence because the group trusts each other. The facilitator trusts me. And so safety is another one, is important. Being allowed to make mistakes in that setting, because this is a learning, training setting. This is not a place where perfection is. It allows the group to have discussions. Sometimes the discussion might even become quite heated, but the people must feel safe there. It's very important. So we don't want to demean, belittle people because of a difference of viewpoint. Sometimes delegates might oppose each other in that area of fear. Oh, no, I don't agree with that concept. Well, that must happen, because that's how the learning will take place. Another one is acceptance. I've touched on that. Acceptance in any level of life, any relationship, is very important. We know that the Bible teaches we are totally accepted in the beloved Jesus. Ephesians teaches us. And so we don't have to then feel defensive. We don't have to become argumentative or contentious, because we have such a high level of acceptance in the setting. Another one is reliability. We must be reliable with each other. Reliable spiritually, reliable emotionally, because reliability creates a place for harmony and for peace to prevail. And the result of that is that there's a consistency of flow, of fluency in the situation that we're in. So, yeah, I'm giving you a lot of information, but another one is new attitudes. self-disclosure, self-awareness of the individual starts to manifest. And that's great if you can create that platform when a student will become aware of himself, herself, and start to share. Will create an atmosphere for learning. And finally, communication. Communication is enhanced and enriched no end. It results in warmth. It results in respect. It results in understanding. And we need to be understanding with each other. The Bible says this in Proverbs, get understanding. If you're going to get knowledge, get understanding, because what we need to have is understanding about God, understanding about life. And we're going to do that. We're going to facilitate them as learners to get to a place where they really understand. So God bless you as we go along this route of facilitation together.